Let's dive into why Red Notice completely outshines Sword Art Online. Sword Art Online is a total mess. Its characters are as flat as cardboard, the plot is nonsense, and it's stuffed with so much filler that watching it feels like a chore. Every scene drags, leaving you wondering why you even hit play in the first place. While Sword Art Online is practically a how-to guide on boring its audience, Red Notice keeps the energy up and never wastes a moment. So let's break down why Red Notice leaves Sword Art Online in the dust, and then stick around as we look at some more awesome Dwayne Johnson movies that show how action is really done.
An FBI agent must reluctantly team up with a criminal to catch the world's greatest art thief. In this video, I'll break down and explain the Red Notice movie. The movie begins with an explanation about how Mark Antony gave Cleopatra 3 bejeweled eggs on their wedding day. The eggs were thought to be nothing more than a myth or rumor. However, a local farmer outside of Cairo found 2 of the 3 eggs. The 3rd egg is still lost. We move to Rome. FBI agent John Hartley and Interpol agent Urvashi Das go to a museum where one of the eggs is on display. John received intel about how the art thief Nolan Booth intends to steal the egg today. John uses a thermal sensor and he sees that something is wrong because the egg isn't reflecting the heat in the room like it should. John pours soda on the egg and it turns out to be a fake. The room is sealed shut, but Nolan manages to escape with the real egg. John goes after Nolan and he holds him at gunpoint. John gets distracted when Urvashi comes into the room and Nolan knocks the gun away. John tackles Nolan out of the window. John chases Nolan again, but he isn't able to catch him. Nolan goes back to his home in Bali with the stolen egg. John and several other Interpol agents are there. The stolen egg is taken into custody and Nolan gets arrested. The most wanted art thief in the world, the Bishop, disguises herself as an Interpol agent and she steals the egg by replacing it with a fake. The next day, John goes to a bar in Rome. He's about to fly out, but Urvashi comes. She found the fake egg in John's bag. Urvashi called the FBI and they've never heard of John. Additionally, John had a Swiss bank account and he received an $8 million wire transfer. John says that he was set up by the Bishop. Urvashi doesn't believe John and arrests him. John is incarcerated in the same Russian prison as Nolan and their cellmates. Nolan informs John that whoever brings an Egyptian billionaire all 3 eggs during the night of his daughter's wedding gets $300 million. The Egyptian billionaire's daughter is also named Cleopatra. John and Nolan are brought to meet the Bishop. She confesses that she was indeed the one who set John up to get arrested. Nolan knows where the 3rd egg is. The Bishop offers Nolan a way out of this prison and 10% of the money for the location of the 3rd egg, but he firmly declines. The Bishop leaves. John proposes to Nolan that they should work together to catch the Bishop. John can put the Bishop in prison for life, and then Nolan would be the best art thief in the world again. Nolan agrees to work with John. Nolan states to John why he became a thief. When Nolan was 8 years old, his father accused him of stealing his watch. The watch was later found in a desk, but Nolan's father never apologized to him. John and Nolan fight several of the guards. Nolan took a guard's key card when another prisoner attacked John. The guards go after John and Nolan, so they slowly walk on the ledge. Nolan hijacks the helicopter while John fights the guards. John gets shot at by a guard with a rocket launcher, but he avoids getting killed. John climbs onto the helicopter as Nolan is flying away. In London, the Bishop hacks into an Interpol agent's computer and she sends a message to Urvashi, notifying her where John and Nolan are going. John and Nolan are headed towards Valencia, where the 2nd egg is located. It's currently in possession of an arms dealer named Sottovoce. John and Nolan come up with a plan to steal the 2nd egg. Nolan intends to use deepfake technology to mimic Soto's face and voice. Moreover, there is a randomly generated passcode on Soto's phone. The phone must be unlocked with his thumbprint. Soto is hosting a masquerade ball, so John and Nolan attend it. John will get the phone, and Nolan will get the thumbprint. The Bishop comes to the masquerade ball as well. John talks to the Bishop, and they dance together. John can't arrest the Bishop right now, since he's out of his jurisdiction, and there are many other criminals here. Nolan gets the thumbprint, and John steals the phone. Urvashi has come to the masquerade ball. Soto gives a speech, so John and Nolan use the opportunity to break into his vault. Urvashi holds John and Nolan at gunpoint. John pleads his innocence again, and Urvashi orders him to arrest Nolan, but he doesn't do it. John and Nolan enter the vault. They're about to take the egg, but the Bishop is waiting for them there. John attempts to arrest the Bishop, but she fights back against him and Nolan. Soto and his men come to interrupt the fight. It turns out that the Bishop was working with Soto this whole time. John and Nolan are knocked unconscious. They wake up in a room underneath the Colosseum. The Bishop tortures John until Nolan gives up the location of the 3rd egg. Nolan doesn't say anything at first, but he eventually reveals the information. The 3rd egg is actually in a hidden chamber in a pyramid in Egypt. The hidden chamber is Cleopatra's secret tomb. The Bishop betrays Soto, and she takes the 2nd egg for herself. The Bishop goes to the pyramid in Egypt to get the 3rd egg. Soto shoots at John and Nolan, but they manage to break free from their restraints. Nolan admits that he lied to the Bishop, and the 3rd egg isn't in Egypt. John and Nolan enter the Colosseum via a trapdoor, and they narrowly escape getting killed by a bull. Afterwards, John and Nolan sneak onto a train. Nolan won't tell John where the 3rd egg is located, and John threatens to throw Nolan off the train. train. However, Nolan knows that John won't do it. John admits that his dad was a con man. He abandoned his family when John was 13. John and Nolan realize that they're not that different. Nolan says that the third egg is located in Argentina. His father's watch is inscribed with the exact coordinates. The watch belonged to Adolf Hitler's curator, Rudolf Zeig. John and Nolan travel to a jungle in Argentina to search for the third egg. They follow a map and discover a secret underground bunker. John and Nolan enter the bunker. The electricity works, and John guesses that it must be hydroelectric power, which means that there's running water nearby. Nolan uses his father's watch to unlock the door. John and Nolan open the door, and they find tons of priceless Nazi artifacts in the bunker, including an old Mercedes-Benz. John and Nolan discover a box that contains the third egg. Nolan accidentally drops the egg, but it's alright. The bishop shows up. She followed John and Nolan here because she knew that Nolan was lying about the third egg being in Egypt. The bishop demands the egg, and Nolan is about to hand it over to her. Interpol agents led by Urvashi come. They shoot at the characters. John, Nolan, and the bishop get in the old Mercedes-Benz and drive it to escape. Urvashi and the other Interpol agents pursue the characters in armored cars. They drive out of the bunker and exit at the top of a waterfall. Urvashi doesn't see anyone and she retreats. Nolan takes the egg and he swims to shore. Nolan puts the egg down and he goes back into the water for John, but John is fine. The bishop comes to shore. Nolan makes fun of the bishop since she lost. As long as Nolan has the third egg, the bishop can't win because she needs all 3 eggs. John is about to arrest the bishop, but he kisses her instead. Nolan realizes that he's been betrayed. It's revealed that John has been working with the bishop this whole time. Both of them are the bishop, just like how there are 2 bishops in chess. They needed Nolan to lead them to the third egg because he was the only one who knew where it was located. Nolan gives the egg to John and the bishop. He then gets handcuffed to a tree. John admits that the story about his dad was true. He hated his dad and wanted to become a better con man than him. John and the bishop assemble all 3 eggs. They go to Cairo to give the eggs to the Egyptian billionaire for the $300 million payment. Ed Sheeran is at the wedding, and the daughter is a lot more interested in him than the eggs. Interpol agents come to the wedding to arrest everyone. They take the eggs, since possession of stolen Nazi loot is a crime. John and the bishop flee before anyone arrests them. There's a 6-month time skip, and we move to Sardinia. John and the bishop are on a boat. Nolan comes. Nolan was later arrested, but he escaped. Nolan claims that he isn't upset about what John and the bishop did to him, but he told Interpol about their secure Cayman Islands account. The account is frozen. Nolan considers them even now. Nolan tells John and the bishop that there's a new score. It's double the payout and triple the challenge. It's a 3-person job, but John really doesn't want to work with Nolan again. The bishop persuades John to change his mind because they need a new score. Interpol agents come to arrest the group, but they're gone. Red notices are issued for the bishop, John, and Nolan. Finally, the movie ends with the characters about to enter the Louvre Museum in Paris for their next heist. And that's the Red Notice movie explained. Red Notice received mixed reviews from critics, but positive reviews from audiences. It was the most watched movie in its debut weekend on Netflix. Additionally, Red Notice was the 5th most streamed movie of 2021. 2 sequels to Red Notice are currently in development, and they'll be filmed back to back. Ross and Marshall Thurber will return as the writer and director. Furthermore, Dwayne Johnson, Ryan Reynolds, and Gal Gadot will reprise their roles from the first Red Notice movie. Which movie or anime should I do next? Leave a suggestion. Check out some of the other videos on this channel. Well, that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to subscribe so you never miss a future upload. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
As you can see, it's clear that Red Notice is leagues ahead of Sword Art Online. This movie knows how to keep you entertained, with action, laughs, and amazing chemistry between the cast. Dwayne Johnson, Ryan Reynolds, and Gal Gadot bring so much energy to the screen that you'll actually have a blast watching. Unlike Sword Art Online, which feels like watching paint dry with its flat, lifeless characters, Red Notice gives us smart humor, thrilling twists, and characters that feel alive. While Sword Art Online just drags on with boring storylines and zero personality, there's really no contest. Red Notice is a thrill ride, and Sword Art Online is a total snooze fest. So skip Sword Art Online, it's just not worth it. And if you're craving more Dwayne Johnson action, we've got some more of his movies you won't want to miss.
It's cool how this school is named Central High School. That definitely fits with this movie since this movie is called Central Intelligence. Calvin's speech here is very heartfelt. It's funny how Calvin used the trash bin to cover up the coffee stain on the carpet. The name of the sports bar here is a nice reference to the character Patches O'Houlihan from the movie Dodgeball, A True Underdog Story. Ross and Marshall Thurber is the writer and director of that movie and this movie. Very sincere conversation here between Calvin and Maggie.
You're like Hercules or somebody.
That line actually makes a lot of sense because Dwayne Johnson played Hercules in the 2014 movie Hercules. Bob's unicorn t-shirt is pretty awesome. Bob's fanny pack in this movie is a nice reference to the Dwayne Johnson fanny pack meme. It's nice how Bob is willing to stand up for Calvin here. Calvin was the only one who helped out Bob 20 years ago, so now Bob is returning the favor. Awesome fight scene here. Very sincere conversation here between Bob and Calvin. It's cool how the TV is playing the the movie 16 Candles right now. It's a nice callback to the conversation between Bob and Calvin earlier in the movie.
Like 16 candles.
Pretty hilarious conversation here between Bob and Calvin. Awesome fight scene here. It's funny how Bob beat that guy using only a banana. That's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome.
Kinda sound like Ray Liotta at the end of Goodfellas.
Nice Goodfellas reference. Pretty hilarious reaction from Calvin here.
Hit it, Ant-Man.
Nice Ant-Man reference. Very sincere conversation here between Bob and Calvin. Kumail Nanjiani is pretty hilarious in this movie.
His name's Snake Gyllenhaal.
That's a very fitting name. This movie is actually pretty good at throwing off the viewer. You still don't really know if Bob is the Black Badger or not. That's a pretty hilarious miscall message. Once again, this movie does a great job giving the audience red herrings. You probably thought that Bob killed Calvin here, but that's not really the case.
Patrick Swayze in Roadhouse.
Nice Roadhouse reference. That's pretty awesome. Awesome fight scene here between Bob and Phil. It's cool how Aaron Paul reprises his iconic catchphrase from Breaking Bad. Whoa, Bob did actually rip out Phil's throat like he said he would.
Rip your throat out.
Hey, this is actually one of the exact same theme songs for Baywatch, another comedy movie starring Dwayne Johnson. Very heartfelt conversation here between Calvin and Maggie. Bob's speech here is very heartfelt. The guy who caught Bob's pants here is actually the writer and director of this movie, Rawson Marshall Thurber. Nice Melissa McCarthy cameo. A nice callback to the beginning of the movie. This is the same exact song that Bob was singing in the shower 20 years ago. The ending scene here is actually a reference to the movie 16 Candles. Bob is wearing nearly the exact same outfit as Michael Schoeffling in the movie. He even has one hand in the pocket, another hand waving hello, and he's leaning against a red vehicle. That's a very fitting license plate. It's nice how this movie included bloopers and outtakes at the end here. The bloopers and outtakes are actually pretty hilarious. This is a pretty awesome way to add the movie's title card.
Are you Batman?
Nice Batman reference. That's a pretty good sand sculpture of Dwayne Johnson. That was a pretty good comeback and a nice Superman reference. Ronnie's Donkey Kong t-shirt is pretty awesome. That was a very funny response, I gotta give him air for that. Zane is pretty hilarious.
Where you from, One Direction?
Zac Efron was actually the one who gave Dwayne Johnson all the nicknames to call him in the movie. Very sincere conversation here between Mitch and Captain Thorpe. Mitch's speech here is very heartfelt and genuine. Very sincere conversation here between Mitch and Matt.
What are you, Aquaman?
Nice Aquaman reference. This movie sure likes to reference DC superheroes. This song Touchdown was actually written and performed by the YouTuber KSI.
Hey, High School Musical.
High School Musical is a very fitting nickname because Zac Efron was in the High School Musical movies. Very sincere conversation here between Ronnie and CJ.
I'm not a Bond villain.
Nice James Bond reference. Awesome explosion scene here. It's cool how Ronnie is singing Katy Perry's Roar. It's funny because Matt is talking about the original Baywatch TV show. In fact, the part about people smuggling diamonds under surfboards was the exact plot of one Baywatch episode. This movie does a great job explaining why the characters don't just sit back and leave everything to the police. Very sincere conversation here between Matt and Victoria. Very sincere conversation here between Matt and Summer. I've got to give a merit for Ronnie's awesome dance skills. Nice reference to The Equalizer. Very heartfelt conversation here between Mitch and Matt. Awesome fight scene here between Mitch and Frankie. Nice Breaking Bad reference. That's a very awesome keychain. Nice David Hasselhoff cameo. He's actually the one who played Mitch Buchanan on the original Baywatch TV show. Very heartfelt conversation here between Mitch and other Mitch. Very touching moment here between all the characters. Nice Jason Bourne reference. Pretty hilarious scene here. It's funny how Matt imagined that it was Summer who saved him. Awesome fight scene here between Mitch and Leon. Some nice lampshading here. Even the filmmakers are willing to admit that Victoria's plan is complicated and cheesy. It's funny how Mitch intentionally stung himself with a sea urchin in order to boost his adrenaline. It's also a nice callback to earlier in the movie when Matt nearly stepped on a sea urchin. Nice Pamela Anderson cameo. She's actually the one who played CJ Parker on the original Baywatch TV show. It's nice how this movie included bloopers and outtakes in the end credits. The bloopers and outtakes are actually pretty hilarious. Very funny scene here between Dwayne Johnson and David Hasselhoff. Fighting with My Family is a 2019 biographical sports movie. It's based on the wrestlers Fighting with My Family. The movie depicts the WWE career of professional wrestler Paige. In this video, let's take a look at some Fighting with My Family Easter eggs and trivia. Right at the beginning of the movie, we see that young Paige is a fan of the TV show Charmed. In fact, this is where she got her ring name. There's a character in the show called Paige Matthews, played by actress Rose McGowan. Paige originally had the name Brittany, but they already had someone named Brittany, so she had to change her name. During the little wrestling match at the start, Zach is wearing a pink Power Rangers outfit disguise to make himself look like a girl. This movie was written and directed by Stephen Merchant. He actually plays Courtney's father, Hugh, as well. Furthermore, Stephen Merchant was also the executive producer of the movie. Since this is a WWE related movie, some of the most legendary and well-known wrestlers are either shown or make a cameo appearance. For example, there's Stone Cold Steve Austin, Big Show John Cena Sheamus, and of course the other executive producer of this movie, Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Ricky is wearing a Flybe.com denim shirt. Flybe is a real British airline based in Exeter, England. It was actually the largest independent regional airline in Europe until it split to Connect Airways. Ricky mentions that wrestling tryouts are like the Hunger Games. The Hunger Games is a trilogy of young adult dystopian novels. They've also been made into 4 movies starring Jennifer Lawrence in the lead role. Dwayne Johnson was only in this movie for a short amount of time, but he definitely made a big impact and steals the scene whenever he does show up. When Dwayne Johnson first meets Paige and Zach, he says that he's currently shooting a movie in London. Dwayne Johnson was actually filming the Fast and Furious 6 in the UK when he discovered the documentary about Paige and her family. Furthermore, Dwayne Johnson makes several pop culture references. There's references to Oliver Twist, Mary Poppins, and even Harry Potter. One of the stagehands mentions how Paige and Zach are not like the Make-A-Wish kids hanging out with Dwayne Johnson. Make-A-Wish is a non-profit organization founded in the United States. It arranges wishes to children diagnosed with critical illnesses. A lot of kids have wished to be on the set of one of Dwayne Johnson's movies and meet him in person. Kirsten makes a reference to Hogwarts, which is the fictional school of magic in the Harry Potter series. The school is the primary setting. A member of the audience calls Paige Ozzy Osbourne. Ozzy Osbourne is an English singer and actor. Paige's whole getup does sort of resemble Ozzy Osbourne, so that's definitely a very fitting joke. Ricky makes a Vin Diesel joke because he thinks that it isn't really Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson calling him. In real life, Vin Diesel and Dwayne Johnson are enemies. They got into a big fight while filming The Fate of the Furious. In fact, it's been rumored that Dwayne Johnson won't even be appearing in the Fast and Furious 9. Thea Trinidad plays AJ Lee. She actually went on to make her very own debut in the WWE shortly after this movie was filmed. Thea Trinidad performs under the ring name Zelina Vega. At the end of the movie, we find out that Paige is the youngest Divas champion. This is 100% true. At the age of 21, Paige is indeed the youngest Divas champion, and she's also the only woman to win the title in her debut. Unfortunately, Paige's WWE career didn't last very long. She was forced to retire from wrestling at the age of 25 due to a neck injury. She will still be working in the wrestling industry though, and she was announced as the general manager of SmackDown. This movie premiered at the 2019 Sundance Film Festival. Additionally, MGM acquired the distribution for the movie for $17.5 million. The movie mostly takes place in Norwich, England. This is where Paige and her family are from. In real life, filming took place in Norwich, England as well, in the nearby coastal town of Great Yarmouth. The scene of Paige versus AJ Lee was shot at the Staples Center in Los Angeles, California. It was filmed after an episode of WWE Raw, so the audience there was actually made up of wrestling fans. No wonder the scene looks so authentic. This movie has received lots of praise from both audiences and critics. It currently has a score of 91% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's definitely very impressive. It reminds us that no matter what the subject is, movies always shine when everyone remembers. The point is a great story told well. Well, that's it for this video. What did you think of Fighting with My Family? Let me know your opinion in the comments below. Also, let me know which is your favorite biographical movie. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more videos. Also, don't forget to turn on notifications for my channel so you never miss a video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Rampage is a 2018 American science fiction monster film. It's directed by Brad Payton and written by Ryan Engel, Carlton Cuse, Ryan J. Condell, and Adam Sitztikio. The movie stars Dwayne Johnson, Naomi Harris, Malin Ackerman, Joe Manganiello, Jake Lacey, Marley Shelton, and Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Rampage is loosely based on the video game series of the same name by Midway Games. The movie follows a primatologist named Davis Okoye, who shares an unshakable bond with George, an extraordinarily intelligent albino gorilla, but a rogue genetic experiment gone awry transforms this gentle ape into a raging monster. As newly created monsters tear across North America, destroying everything in their path, Davis Okoye teams up with a discredited genetic engineer to secure an antidote, fighting his way through an ever-changing battlefield, not only to halt a global catastrophe, but also to save the fearsome creature that was once his friend. I personally have never played the Rampage video games, so this review will be from the perspective of someone who's not familiar with the games. So video game movies don't exactly have the best track record. So far, they've all been either pretty terrible or just painfully average. The newest Tomb Raider movie was pretty decent, but still not all that great overall. Does Rampage manage to break the video game curse? Let's find out in this review. Alright, I'll start off with the good things. This movie is a lot of fun. It's action-packed, exciting, and definitely very entertaining. The entire third act was very fun to watch. When the actual Rampage part of the movie begins, it was pretty awesome. The movie knows what it is, and it embraces the absurdity and silliness in its entirety. It doesn't pretend to be deep or psychological or anything like that. What you see in the trailers is pretty much what you get in the movie as well. There's also a bunch of comedic moments in this movie, and I laughed quite a lot. The jokes and one-liners are definitely pretty hilarious. Additionally, the visual effects are fantastic. The animals looked very realistic. The CGI overall was great. All the fight scenes were very impressive and fun to watch. You don't just get the military versus the animals fight scenes. You also get a bunch of animal versus animal fight scenes as well. Also, Dwayne Johnson did a good job playing Davis Okoye. He's definitely a very likable and charismatic person. His relationship with George was very believable. Jeffrey Dean Morgan also did a good job playing Harvey Russell. His character worked pretty well with Dwayne Johnson's character. character. Jeffrey Dean Morgan was pretty amusing, and there were a bunch of comedic moments involving his character. Furthermore, I think that the pacing was good. It didn't feel like the movie dragged on too long or was too rushed. I did not feel bored at all while watching this movie. The movie also ended in a pretty satisfying way. Okay, now let's talk about some things that were not so great. Apart from Davis Okoye and Harvey Russell, the other characters were very forgettable. They didn't really stand out at all. I think that you could pretty much have gotten any actor to play their roles and it wouldn't make too much of a difference. Although Dwayne Johnson was great as Davis Okoye, he didn't really have too much chemistry with Naomi Harris's character. It just felt pretty awkward when they were together. Also, the villains were just laughable. They were so cartoonish and ridiculous. I'm pretty sure that there are actual video game villains that are more menacing and intimidating than the villains of this movie. Although there were a bunch of comedic lines, the dialogue overall isn't that great. There were a bunch of cheesy lines, the type of stuff that you expect to see in a video game, not a movie. Additionally, there are quite a lot of plot conveniences in this movie. You do have to suspend your disbelief quite a lot, but I guess that's to be expected in a movie like this. Overall, Rampage is a pretty fun movie. It has a lot of exciting and entertaining action scenes. The CGI is fantastic and there's also a bunch of comedic moments in the movie. In terms of video game movies, Rampage is definitely one of the best. However, that's not really saying much since most of the other video game movies have been pretty terrible. As I mentioned in the review, the movie does have a lot of flaws. Most of the characters are very forgettable, the villains are just laughable, and there's a lot of cheesy dialogue. That being said, I still personally enjoyed this movie and had a fun time watching it. The movie pretty much gives you exactly what you were expecting. I'm gonna give Rampage a B-. Alright guys, that's it for my review of Rampage. If you've seen the movie, let me know in the comments below how you felt about it. That line is very fitting. Dwayne Johnson is actually an animal lover in real life as well. Also, Dwayne Johnson was a great choice to play the lead character Davis Okoye. He's able to play a charismatic and likable main character. So Davis rescued George and saved his life. Now it makes sense why George is so fond of Davis. Some very impressive visual effects here. George actually looks pretty realistic. It's cool how the studio logos are stylized to fit with the theme and tone of this movie. Once again, some very impressive visual effects for George. You can really see the terror and distress in his facial expressions. This movie has a very interesting premise. Genetic editing is also something that happens in real life. Again, this trailer has some great visual effects. The wolf here actually looks pretty realistic. The background music here is pretty epic. It definitely hypes up this entire trailer. Awesome fight scene here between George and these soldiers. We only get to see a small glimpse here, but I'm sure that the entire fight scene will be pretty cool to watch. Awesome explosion scene here. Pretty epic moment here. It's cool to see some giant animals destroying an entire city. Another epic moment here. This trailer definitely has a bunch of very impressive action scenes. Pretty hilarious moment here. Some very impressive visual effects for the giant crocodile. It actually looks pretty realistic.
Ready to meet Oz?
Wizard of Oz.
Rebuild. Now we rebuild.
Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next video.